Today, as we continue revisiting Avatar, we're turning to Mr. Spiritual himself, Tenzin. One of the things I've always loved about Avatar is its focus on family. Your chosen family, a ragtag bunch of folks rising together to face adversity, but also the complications of your actual blood family and all the challenges that can arise there. How does the duty of living up to a familial legacy impact a character? Well, that's what we're going to be examining here. What's up, guys? I'm Kris Carr, and today I'm talking to you about Tenzin from Avatar: The Legend of Korra. Instead of asking Nerdwire fans to donate to our Patreon, I want to encourage you to make a donation to Black Lives Matter, or another Black organization. It would be a waste of this platform not to advocate for the Black community, and I hope you'll join us in giving what you can. Any support you can give will go a long way. No act of empathy is too small. Thanks in advance for your donations and your time. Stay safe out there. Now, for the uninitiated, who exactly is Tenzin? Tenzin is the youngest child of Avatar Aang and waterbending master Katara. As their only airbending offspring, he's charged with preserving the art of airbending and the customs of the air nomads. Tenzin spent a great deal of time with his father and was given his father's airbending artifacts to help preserve the culture. His mastery of airbending is incredibly evident throughout the Korra series. While he may not have been a prodigy or an innovator like Aang, his skills are immense. Though a pacifist at heart, Tenzin has made his combat prowess evident throughout the show, able to stand toe-to-toe with the foes Team Avatar 2 faced. A nimble and swift fighter, Tenzin doesn't waste energy when battling, and moves with purpose. In his younger days, Tenzin embarked on a romantic relationship with fellow Team Avatar offspring Lin Beifong. But the two ultimately split. While Tenzin's now wife Pima claims that she stole Tenzin away, director commentary suggests that what ultimately was an issue in Tenzin and Lin's relationship is that Tenzin wanted children, while Lin did not. Character-wise, this always made a lot of sense to me. Tenzin grew up with very loving parents who were incredibly hands-on, and while they did end up putting immense pressure on him, like, hey buddy, make sure you get out there and make a lot of airbending babies for us, Lin didn't see that much love in her life from her family. She lived in her mother's shadow. She strove to constantly impress her, and she was raised in a really unorthodox manner that led to her resenting her family. Their childhood experiences most likely impacted their own desire to rear children. Tenzin grew to be a diplomat, living on Air Temple Island with Air Acolyte wife Pima and their children. In addition to his political duties, Tenzin was charged with training the next Avatar, Korra, in the art of airbending, as well as guiding her on her spiritual journey. Tenzin is typically calm and cool, but he can lose it when his buttons are pushed, something Korra masters way faster than airbending. He also is far less go-with-the-flow than carefree Aang. This is mostly because he became the sole protector and teacher of airbending, causing him to become a staunch traditionalist. This is why he initially abhors things like pro-bending, something he views as an irrelevant perversion of bending. Tenzin holds so much respect for his father that we rarely hear him even refer to him as such. Instead, he's Avatar Aang in conversation. Granted, he's usually discussing his father and his role as the Avatar, his duties, etc., and will say father or dad when speaking of Aang in a familial matter. He holds his father in such regard that he criticizes Councilman Tarlok when he suggests he's emulating the actions of Aang. Tenzin calls him arrogant for even daring to make such a comparison. Aang is the golden standard of who Tenzin should be, and he is dead set on being his father's son, being the bender he needs him to be. While his older brother Bumi was named for Aang's madman Bud, and sister Kaya was named after Katara's mother, Tenzin shares his name with the current Dalai Lama, Tenzin Gyatso. This could mean that Monk Gyatso's full name was Tenzin Gyatso, and our guy got named after him, but I think perhaps the name was divided between these two characters. In Tibetan, this name means upholder of teachings, an incredibly fitting choice for Tenzin, as he must uphold the ways of the Air Nation. Legend of Korra focuses quite a bit on legacy, especially when it comes to those characters tied directly to Team Avatar from Last Airbender, such as Lin, Su, and of course Tenzin. We see the burden of legacy weigh heavily on Tenzin. While Lin and Su obviously have a lot to live up to, with Toph being their mother, Tenzin has an entire people's culture weighing upon him. He not only has to live up to being an airbender and raising the next generation of airbenders, but he also became a historian, preserving the traditions and customs of his people with the aid of the Air Acolytes. Tenzin had to not only be the airbending son of Avatar Aang, he had to be the personification of all airbenders at all times. Tenzin is placed in such a unique position. He's simultaneously the son of the Avatar and a father figure to the Avatar. The son of the Avatar who happened to survive the slaughter of his people, and the mentor to the Avatar who brought airbending back to the world. Every time he looks at this young woman who he has pledged to guide and teach, it's a reminder that his father's gone. She has a direct tether to his father that he can't access. Also, keep in mind that Tenzin didn't have kids until Korra was 7, meaning none of these children got to meet their grandfather. That Aang was unsure if Tenzin would be the last Airbender, or if his legacy would live on. Think of the pressure to have kids and make benders! I also want to touch on the pride and pain Tenzin must have felt seeing Jinora with her shaved head and mastery tattoos. She is the spitting image of his father Aang in this moment. Plus, Jinora reveals herself to have a far greater understanding of the spirit world than her father, Mr. Spiritual. Day after day, Tenzin sees a physical reflection of his father and works with the carrier of his soul. Place those reminders with the immense pressure he's under, that's a lot to handle. American psychologist Frank J. Sulloway postulated that every child occupies a certain niche within the family, and then uses their own strategies to master life. Firstborn or only children don't often rail against the status quo, and often agree with their parents' worldview, while younger siblings tend to be less sure of their parents' view, and thus choose a path considered a bit more alternative than their folks. Traditionally, it's believed that lastborns are more free-spirited due to their parents' increasingly hands-off parenting styles as they have more and more children. These children tend to be fun-loving, free-spirited, really outgoing and attention-seeking, a personality like the young airbender we first meet in ATLA. This clearly doesn't ring true for Aang's children, as Tenzin did precisely what his father wished him to do. Bumi lived up to his wild namesake, and Kaya proved to be the most responsible when it came to family matters, and also studying to master waterbending and healing. If we're looking at birth order traits, it would seem Bumi and Tenzin flipped the script, with Tenzin leaning into tradition, and Bumi forging his own unorthodox path. Their personalities and relationships with one another definitely were defined more by Tenzin's bending abilities. Aang clearly played favorites, and others, like the air acolytes, paid far more attention to Tenzin than Bumi or Kaya. Spending time with his siblings not only forces Tenzin to confront his father's shortcomings, such as unintentionally favoring him, but it also makes him confront his own feelings of inadequacy. When lost in the fog of lost souls, Tenzin's through line for staying focused is that he's the son of the Avatar, the hope of future airbenders. But when his father appears to him in a vision, all Tenzin could do was apologize over and over for failing him, for not living up to him. Aang tells his son that his only failure has been making his life's mission to be Aang, and holding this false perception of who he is, and who he should be. This allows Tenzin to see that he must step out of his father's shadow so he can be the best version of himself. He realizes he's not a reflection of his father. He's his own being. He's Tenzin. And this epiphany allows him to reach spiritual enlightenment. His efforts to emulate his father were keeping him from accessing something so intrinsically Aang: spirituality. I know everyone has some hard opinions on Korra, and you are absolutely entitled to them. One of the things I always found myself wanting from the show was more on the adults. More about Tenzin and Lin and being raised by these prolific heroes. But as I re-examined the series, and specifically this character, it's fascinating to hear from these grown children's perspective. To see how their parents impacted them, both as larger-than-life figures and as parents. People who made mistakes and were flawed and didn't even live up to their own legends. Through Tenzin, we see the importance of honoring tradition, but not forsaking being true to our own natures. We can carry on our family's legacies while still forging our own path. By not making Tenzin a copy-paste version of his father, and having that be a huge factor in his own personal development, the writers gave us Korra's most complex and nuanced supporting character. By far, my fave of the series. Now, of course, this is just how I feel about Tenzin. The question is, what do you think about this character? Hit me with your hot takes in the comments below. Thank you so much for making your voices heard, thank you to our awesome supporters on Patreon, and thank you to all you incredible Avatar fans! If you like what you heard, hit the subscribe button and bell so we can keep the Avatar conversation going. Thanks so much for watching, y'all! See you, Space Cowboy.